hands down the most thought-provoking and engaging episode of Call of the Night, because up to this point we've had a very one-sided view of the whole vampirism. Not only does Ko interact with someone who he wants to turn him into a vampire, the general characters surrounding her and vampires alike really doesn't come across as your typical evil vampirism story. And something I've complimented is how fresh the take of vampirism is handled in this show. It doesn't feel like a copy and paste of other literature, TV series, movies, anime, etc., right? But I do like the concept of this seemingly detective and detective arc potentially, where you have someone show you the opposite side of the vampirism spectrum. Because what about the victims that get turned into a vampire not because they want to, but because they fell in love with the wrong person, and obviously they didn't know of the danger of what could happen there? The fact that this teacher went missing, I think they said 10 years prior, and apparently he held out 10 years not drinking a single drop of blood. And the one night that he was waiting to seemingly die, I don't think it was like a matter of he would have starved. I think he was waiting for the sunrise in his classroom. He was just waiting for it to, he accepted his fate. And the fact that these three came in, it's like he couldn't help himself. He couldn't resist. And the fact that you got a more classical vampire moment of, holy shit, the fear of death, the fear of being consumed, it was brilliant. It was brutal. And the parting scene, because if you really take yourself out of the perspective that we've been following for 10 episodes, what this detective was saying and what she was doing, I mean, there's no reason why most logical people wouldn't push back against that, right? This is a man who suffered for 10 years, never wanted this, didn't even understand it for probably half of those 10 years, if not longer. And the fact that he just wanted to go out as a human, and the fact that she gave him that by holding onto the ring as the sun rose. It was tragically beautiful, and it definitely is a thought-provoking moment, right? Because I don't think, in the long run, it will completely stop him from wanting to pursue this goal of his. But short term, I definitely think it will put the brakes on it. And I think it'll be fun to see because this private detective was such a interesting character to begin with. The whole kind of like flirtatious, but kind of like you felt like she knew more than she was letting on. And then she brings up Atkinson, and then just obviously the whole grabbing scene to then call me if you know anything. You knew damn well she's gonna pop up. I just wasn't expecting her to pop up in the way that she would willingly, just like in open arms, let this teacher lash out to then give him such a wholesome moment. I truly thought what was going to happen was like she was in the middle of like giving the ring. I thought she was going to like stab him in the back with a certain weapon or item, but it was so much better that it wasn't a shocking moment in that way, but more so a depressingly kind of innocent / vulnerable moment where you're just like, I was completely team detective in that moment, right? Like, of course, for someone like Ko, who's been interacting with so many vampires that he doesn't see as evil people, he thinks that's evil, right? Because, like, you just killed someone, but he didn't understand. He was blindsided by his own wannabe love and everything else that he's experienced, that he doesn't see the other side of what being a vampire could be. I find it interesting that the show decided to introduce it here because it definitely catches you off guard, because over the prior 10 episodes, it really felt like, yes, you saw highs and lows of being a vampire. We've seen characters who are kind of like very interested in Ko, who are part of that little vampire group who all want to turn him into a vampire of their own. You've seen the loneliness. It's not like it's all sunshine and rainbows, they're all happy as can be, and everyone's like Nazna, who now just knows the brilliance of money. She gets her maid cafe job, she's gonna keep doing the cuddling business. Her apartment's gonna be mad stacked with furniture and luxuries, and she very much is a happy person. But when you remove Ko from the equation, was she really happy up until that point, right? It definitely, when you really take a step back, the vampire life is lonely if there's no one next to you that you truly want to spend it with. So it's interesting to see how they introduce that kind of sucker punch that completely shattered my boy's expectations, to just have him walk home depressingly saying, I don't know a damn thing about vampires, more or less. And it's interesting how they use the filter. It kind of felt like a classic vampire movie where they almost had like a black and white filter, but they had a lot more grays and tones, and then obviously you had your more bright reds in the demonic scenes. But just the way they're playing around with perspective, whether it was the karaoke scene when you had that whole stalker thing with the weird colors and everything, they just have a really fun time with the visual presentation, whether it's the actual night with the whole Call of the Night setting, to just what they did with this more horror aesthetic. It really got across few innocent teenagers goofing off in the middle of the night and they bumped into a vampire that almost ripped their heads off. Truthfully, it's hard to say how this season of Call of the Night will end because with 2 episodes to go of its first season, of hopefully only its first season, it'll be interesting to see what type of drama could pop up in the next episode, because for me, one of the things I've complimented countless times is that the drama that's there is never in the way of its drama for shock value or to give you cliffhangers to make you say, ooh, characters are gonna fight, characters are gonna break up, and that's why we want to watch the next episode. This was without a doubt the most dramatic stopping point I think Call of the Night has had to date, and it's worrying in the way that Ko is definitely reconsidering the possibility of what it is to be a vampire, and in return that could be a wedge between him and Nazna a bit. But it's not to the point that you think they're going to separate and they're never going to talk together. It's an important question that he needs to answer, and even if he decides to commit to the vampire life still after this, the detective will be a completely different ballpark of not wanting to let that happen, especially given she knows of them, and obviously as a private detective, she knows quite a bit that she didn't let on earlier and prior to that whole interaction in the school. Truthfully, I thought Nazna was going to pop up, or one of the other vampires was. I wasn't expecting the private detective. Like, I kind of was in the way that she would be there and see things, but not that she would be the stopping force. And I think a lot of people were probably in the same thought process of, well, we have vampire bodyguards, that's who will protect them, not Ko smashing a chair against a head after freezing up because this is completely different than anything he's dealt with, and things that have reminded him of this moment, well, he's had a bodyguard to protect him, but now he's just a young kid not knowing what the hell to do and basically scared shitless. That's what I really like about this episode and why I'd probably put it as one of the best episodes of the Call of the Night season to date, if not the best, but there's been a few episodes that I think are just standing toe-to-toe with this, so I'm not going to necessarily say it's like the best or slightly better than other ones or anything like that. The thing I will say is that for being close to the end of the season, it feels like we've only scratched the surface of where the narrative, the character interactions, the character relationships can go. I mean, literally separating them and just having a couple of high school kids just having fun in the middle of the night, looking up ghost stories, all things considered. There's so much variety, and I think things you could explore both on the human and vampire side and how they crisscross over with each other. But then you add in this detective plotline, and it immediately catches my interest more than anything else that has been brought up in the show. And as someone who's been a big fan ever since episode 1, the fact that they're finding new ways constantly to make me say that's even more interesting than my previous favorite thing, that's how you know you have a damn fine gem on your hands, and why I really hope this won't be a one and done season, because there's a lot of potential. And for me, just seeing how the visuals light up this atmosphere, it's a big reason why I love it and why it'd be such a hard transition for me to go to the manga or anything, because I really love how the anime production has handled this and how the team has crafted, I think, exactly what I'd want to see for a style of show like this. But I'd love to know everyone's thoughts and feelings, because I remember, it was around the episode 3 or 4 mark that people said by the time we get to the end of the season, some of their favorite stuff was going to be shown, and I have a feeling this is what they're talking about. So obviously manga readers had some expectations, but for anime onlys, what did you think of the sucker punch that was episode 11? Theories, if you got any, on where the detective plotline might go, where Ko's mentality might go? I'd love to hear everyone's thoughts. Leave a like if you enjoy and subscribe if you're new around here. So next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.